Hello, Ryan here, aka Mac, and welcome. So, the Star Citizen Gamescom presentation is over, and I enjoyed it very much. I hope you did too. We got to see the progress they made so far for 3.0, and this video is going to be a breakdown and an overview of what we saw, including some bits that you may have missed. So it starts off with him loading in undressed to the Levski habitation pod. This including Olisar, Levski, and Grimhex. These are your main 3 save points in 3.0, but you will be able to log off anywhere in the game as long as you've got a bed, and then respawn there too. He explores the new MOBI glass, including the home screen with the external atmospheres, the vitals, the status, his money. There's the bottom left-hand corner, you've got the little different apps that you can have. The top left app is the Contracts Manager, and in 2.6 they say there's currently 16 missions, whereas in 3.0 there's 26 archetypes of missions, which can all be combined in different combinations to create millions of missions themselves, including escorting, retrieval, searching, beacon placement. All this will add a lot of longevity. Now, hopefully they won't get too repetitive. I know it's going to be a case of the same type of mission, but with a different location, a different derelict, and so forth. So hopefully it won't be too repetitive, but we'll see. But they found an offer from Miles. This is an offers tab, which is a place where NPCs and eventually players will be able to make up their own contracts for players to accept. So more player-driven content, and I think this will probably be one of the more prominent options that we will be using in the game is taking contracts from other players. Even if it's just a friend who wants you to join him on a mission he's doing, he could set up a mission or a contract for you to join him. Anyway, we saw the Cryastro tab as well, which is for repairing and refueling, and the LiveWorks app, which is for customizing your ship. Now, the Cryastro tab, or the refueling, won't work until you're at a place where you can be refueled. So it's not just going to be in the middle of nowhere, flip out your app, and then you can repair it. You'd have to be in a location for that specific job. We also got to see the Equipment Manager. Now, this is where he chose the clothing, like the undersuit, the footwear, gloves, trousers, tops, jackets. Chris Roberts says that there's a lot more new clothing for 3.0, and we can see here everyone looks and dresses completely different. But he clicks on the clothing item, and then it sort of gives a list of the possible options. And I think he did say a bit ago that you'll only have the options or the choice of what you have in the vicinity of that landing zone. So if you have those clothes on a ship, which is where you are now, and then you'll be able to choose them. But if those clothes are on another ship, or even in a hangar somewhere else, away from where you are, like jumps away from where you are, then you won't have access to them. You'll have to go personally and pick that up. Maybe in 3.0 you'll just have everything that you own. We'll have to wait and see for that. But he gets dressed, it looks pretty cool. We saw the interaction system where you hold down the F button and then use your mouse wheel to locate something to click, and then you can click on it with the right button. But we also saw the new player walk speeds and the new hint system, which is there to help new players get to grips with the game. I was a little bummed out that every landing zone has the same style easy hubs. I hope to see a little more variation of this in the future, but Grimhex, Port Olisar, they all look pretty much exactly the same. Well, Grimhex and Levski have a very similar aesthetic when he came out of the easy hub. But from there, he went to the main hub of Levski with the NPCs all walking around, and he says currently there's about 200 NPCs walking around Levski. They will be in 3.0, so expect to see landing zones populated only with the basic AI. This is part of the subsumption, but obviously it's still early days for this AI, and in the vid, they will be going around doing their own routines, like this guy Barodi's personal arc welder and started welding something, sitting down using the MOBI glass, so it will feel a lot better around these landing pads. The chances, if it's a 24-player server, the chances of bumping into people are going to be quite slim with 3.0. Not impossible, obviously, it's not No Man's Sky, but it'll still be quite limited to actual people, so having this population will make it feel a bit better. But going back to the MOBI Glass Cryastro tab, the Liberty Maintenance is a place where I think you can go over to the cashier guy there and just ask him to repair your vehicle and so forth, if you've taken damage. Anyway, something I did notice throughout the whole of this demo, but specifically in Levski, is the lighting and how natural it looks from the outside star and the internal lights. It is so much better than it used to be, as well as the new volumetric fog. They're obviously converting all the fog over. This adds to the atmosphere really well, and it does look a lot better than it did on the previous demo we got to see. But from the elevator, you can look out and view Delamar itself, well, the Levski landing zone, as well as parts of Delamar. But some of those asteroids, he says, in the distance, are about 20 kilometers in size, which just, you know, we'll talk more about scale in a little bit, actually. But he makes his way to the Grand Bar to Marketplace, and the sounds are incredible, bustling with life, and it just gives this solid feel to it. Shops, he says, have been filled up too, so they now feel more robust. You can see conscientious objects, and the hospital as well. Conscientious objects we'll visit later on. This is where you can pick up your weaponry and ammunition. But the hospital, I assume, is if this is your landing zone, you can mark this as your respawn point as well. So if you do pop your clogs, then you'll wake up back in the hospital there. Now he heads down to the bar and meets with his friend, who goes and speaks to Miles Eckhart, who we've met way back when last year to get this mission. Miles is looking much better as well, and he explains the job at hand. It's those kind of jobs that are not for the usual MOBI glass jobs. These are specific to that character, and depending on how dangerous it is will depend on the pay grade. So the job is to grab a black box from a vessel which has been shot down intentionally to take out a target from talking in court about a mob boss. Now the lawyers are trying to grab the black box to prove it was a hit, hence the good payout. So I think it's 100,000 UEC. Now if this was me taking this job, you would use that amount to work out how much you're going to pay however many crew you want to hire, the type of ships you want to take, as well as escorts and things like that. Obviously, going out with a Connie and 3 people is probably a little undermanned. So yeah, if we were to do this, we'd have a few more. We'll spread the money a bit better. But anyway, after the meeting, they revealed the new tech, which is FOIP and VoIP. VoIP being voice over IP, and FOIP is the new facial animations over IP. I've done a separate video on this, which I'll link in the description. But also head tracking, which is pretty cool. Looking forward to this. This isn't coming in 3.0. This is just a demo of it. It will be hopefully ready for 3.1, sorry, whenever that will happen. But as Chris said a while ago, he wants to stop people wanting to use third-party voice apps, which is why it's actually pretty damn good. Anyway, as I said, they make their way to a few shops. Concierge's Objects is where they get some newly updated weapons, including the Scourge. The shopkeeper actually welcomes them, which is quite nice. And I think the Scourge is about 7,500 United Earth credits, so it's quite expensive, which is good. It needs to have a working cost to it. You've got to work up to it. But they walk further through the shop and you can see a 60% off sign. Hopefully this is a hint towards maybe the possibility of actual shop sales from time to time, with the robust economy that is expected. And just before leaving, an NPC enters, which is a nice touch. But they visit Dumper's Depot. This is a ship's part dealer. You can see the parts on the shelves. Things like components like shields, coolers, power plants. Very nice. Anyway, they make their way to the top floor where the garages are, passing through this new customs area. Levski is clearly a very large landing zone. And it's just, you can tell, you can get lost in there quite easily. But again, do pay attention to the lighting in the environment. There's a scene where they come out of the elevator and it just reminds me so much of games like Dead Space and Alien Isolation, where they do the atmosphere just perfectly. So they get to the vehicle valet station and request, this is where you can request either vehicles to the hangar or to the garage. Now this is part of the new air traffic control system. They want to stop people just hogging the landing pad, so after requesting a ship or a vehicle, you'll have a certain time limit to get to your ship and then move out, otherwise it'll be taken back into the hangar. But we saw them now put on a spacesuit using their MOBI glass. Started with the undersuit, and as soon as you put this undersuit on, it switches to the options for armor. So armors for the arms, for the chests, for the legs, and the helmet, as well as a cool little helmet torch. So helmets will have their own attachments, which is pretty nice. But also note, before he switches to that, the slots for pants, where you can have either a medical item, a utility item, or a weapon. So this looks like it's allowing you to use the pockets on your clothing as well. But as soon as he selects the undersuit, he goes into the armor and then he's all fully dressed. Chris did say that you will be able to have predefined loadout, so you won't have to constantly put everything on your character. You will be able to do it as a whole. But then after that, with them wearing helmets, the communications are now filtered through the helmets, and no matter how close or distant you are, you can hear them, and it sounds pretty nice too. So they head outside, which looks just fantastic. The spacescape looks so pretty, really nice and cool. And I'd love to explore the Levski landing zone a bit more. But we've got some NPCs outside wearing suits and wandering around. And he just took a second to demonstrate that the externals have no atmosphere, so by removing your helmet, you will suffocate. Anyway, they enter the Ursa rover while the passenger uses their MOBI glass to call a friend who is close by, and this is speaking them face-to-face using this new second viewpoint tech to request a pickup a little further on down the road. You can see on the screen on the left the two contacts that they know. One of them is obviously sat right next to them, which is the driver of the Ursa, and the other one is the Constellation pilot, who is currently hovering above Levski and about 6,000 meters away. So you'll be able to call and hail people on your contact list, which is a really nice touch. But after a dicey long drive through the Levski landing zone to the ship landing pad, the new constellation Aquila arrives. They drive the rover onto the cargo bay door, which looks very smooth, and using the new panel as well in the Connie, you can raise up the floor of the cargo hold with the Ursa attached. Now on the bridge of the Connie, with all the other people walking around together, it looks really nice. And as you can see, each crew member is actually looking at the other member as they sit down, which is a nice touch. It shows that the character that when you move your head, your in-game character does as well. And this was for the first playthrough. I'm showing the second playthrough most of the time because it was a bit smoother. But they slowly take off from Levski, which is pretty epic. Something Chris Roberts said is that the Delamar asteroid, which is what they're on now, is small in comparison to the moons. It's only about 200 kilometers in diameter. But on one of those craters that you can see off in the distance, the full Skyrim map can fit in that. And looking at the sight of this constellation passing over the jagged, barren Delamar landscape, only being lit by the moon is just one of my most memorable moments of this stream. It looks fantastic. But anyway, they're using the MOBI Glass star map to locate the appropriate destination, to tag it for quantum travel, which is the wreck, the Caterpillar wreck on Daymar. And this is about 800,000 kilometers away. Crusader is the planet that you can actually see next to the wreck. You can't see Daymar, but you can see Crusader that's next to it, because Crusader is the big gas giant, the main planet in this little area here. And upon arriving at Daymar, you can just see how big it is. It's 1,000 kilometers in diameter. The landscape, although quite samey, looks incredible. And remember, this is still a moon, so planets will be a lot bigger than this. But as they're sort of slowly passing through the atmosphere, you can see the view from the cockpit. It looks incredible. And what I like about this fact is it takes time to go from point to point. It's not just a case of, let's get in the ship, now we travel, now we get the box, now we're back again. It's taking a lot of time to get to this point, and they're actually running through it, which I don't know about you, but I intend to walk most of the time. But it proves you'll be spending a lot of time in these ships, so it feels like more like an epic journey rather than just a quick point A, point B sort of scenario. But do note the screen on the left of the pilot seat. There is a comms panel here. This is where they can hail other players who are in the vicinity, and you can see actually all the people who are taking part in this demo. He could actually hail them if they wanted to do that, but they're not going to for the sake of it. But the atmosphere is creating some turbulence after they've passed through, and the ship begins to shake as they make their descent. You can spot the Caterpillar from above, and then they need to find level ground to put it down, which is about a kilometer away. After landing, they deploy the rover and then travel that kilometer to the wreckage. Notice that one viewpoint from the Ursa driver and the passenger is a darker tint to the other, so I assume that each helmet will have various helmet tints. That would be a nice touch. Well, they reach the Derelict and they equip their weapons, and I think the weapons available should only be what you carry on the ship and the rover, and not just pop up out of nowhere, out of your inventory. I think this will change, because they have mentioned this before in the past, but for demo purposes, and it's 3.0, it may change later on. But inside the wreck, you can see some small cargo boxes dotted around, which should be salvageable in 3.0, and I'd just be grabbing them all, taking them back to my cargo holder, making some extra cash on the side. Inside, it's very creepy. The ambience with the torchlight as they transition through is just creepy as hell, and I can just imagine seeing a creature shooting past, or maybe pirate ambush. I will be taking my time in here and making sure that no one's waiting for me. The shotgun guy actually loses sight of their friend after they pick up the black box, and so he gets lost inside this Caterpillar wreck. So when you consider some of these larger ships, quite easy to get turned around and lose friends. You're going to have to make sure you stick together in there. But anyway, as they leave the Derelict, although you probably can't hear it now because I've cut out a lot of the audio because they're talking over the top, but you can hear the wind blowing through the doorway. It sounds very atmospheric. And they head back to the ship, at which point they get attacked. Now, the Buccaneer is intentionally missing them on the ground, but he does focus on the Constellation, and he manages to destroy it before it gets out of the way. One of my favourite scenes follows here, with the Cutlass chasing down the Ursa rover while they are trying to fire the railgun out the back. It looks incredible, and I just cannot wait to do something like that. I don't think they actually hit the Cutlass, but it blew up nonetheless because it's part of the script. But it did look kind of cool. We got the impression of what they were trying to portray there. And he finally radios for help and manages to get in contact with a nearby ship, or captain, who sends two Gladius out to sort out this Buccaneer. Now, the issue that I see at the moment, and I've seen this on the demos on the GamesCom presentation, and I hope that it will change. I expect it will. It's still early alpha, so we'll see it change. is that when ships are not moving in atmosphere, they seem to just sit there as if they are in space. I would like to see the IFCS using the maneuvering thrusters to kind of level the ship when you're not actually travelling anywhere. A bit like you see with a VTOL aircraft. Giving it a better impression that you are in planet atmosphere and that the ship has that structure to it. I would have thought it'd be more like doing gun runs from modern day fighters rather than just hovering in the same place and firing. But anyway, during the fight, they took out the Buccaneer, and you can actually see in the top half of the screen while they're fighting this Idris slowly moving in. Now, this is the first flyable complete capital ship, and the Gladius actually, if you didn't know, came from that ship. They were sent from that ship, so they were actually sat inside. But note the damage on the Ursa after it took a hit from the previous encounter. This persistent damage tech does look very cool, and you'll have to get that repaired if you want to get rid of it. But another one of my favourite shots of the whole demo is the Idris as it's landing. You can see the Gladius flying around it, showing the massive scale and size comparison. The slow approach has a great presence to it, and it feels epic as it gradually touches down. You can see the sand kicking up and the landing struts compressing very nicely and very realistically. It feels more like a film than a game. But it's crazy to think that all while this is going on outside, inside the Idris is actually a pilot and a captain who are sitting on the bridge, controlling it. They lower the huge ramp with the intention of the rover driving up it, but unfortunately, due to bugs and errors that we don't know, it fails and it blows up, killing its driver as well. Luckily, the passenger got out earlier, and he had a really great view of the whole thing, showing off the scale again of the Idris and the kicking up of the sand and the dust. It's hard to really see the scale if you're not planet side looking at it. But he manages to jump on the ramp and runs up to the top into the huge launch bay, closing its doors. The shot sort of pans out to get a perspective from a tailing Gladius as the Idris takes off, and the small screen in the bottom corner shows the actual character on board travelling through the Idris to the bridge. Lots of detail inside. It's such a big ship as well, you can easily get lost. Now the Idris jumps right into the path of another Idris, and they come ahead and send their demands, of which are refused, and then this epic capital ship battle pursues with fighters, railguns and turrets. And just watch how powerful each hit from the railgun. It shakes the camera, it feels like it's really hitting home, and you can see the damage again persisting on the front of it. And then an explosion which is just beyond words. The Gladius then returned to the hangar which they originated from, and it's all incredible stuff. But they did replay the battle. This is just a quick overview of what actually happened during the demo. Let me know what your thoughts are, guys. Obviously, seeing another demo of 3.0 is a bit disappointing, considering we should have had it a year ago kind of thing, but either way, I enjoyed it thoroughly, and it's just hyped me up even more to get my hands on it. Don't forget, we are giving away a starter and starter package every month, courtesy of my patrons, so just be a subscriber and comment on any video that I put out throughout August. Follow me on Twitch, I stream 5 days a week, Twitter and Instagram, the links are below. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.
Right, it's a high degree of difficulty. We'll see. Ooh. back. There you go. There we go. All right, we brought him home. Okay.